tricky on some of those roads in the east of the country. There'll also be at least potentially some freezing rain in southwestern parts of Scotland. That won't last for too long, but it could be quite hazardous, particularly on some of those roads in the southwest of Scotland. The wet weather sets in as well during the afternoon for many areas of the northwest, but it should stay dry across East Anglia and the southeast. And this is actually tomorrow night. You can see there's lots of cloud, outbreaks of rain and these milder southerly winds. And then I think on Friday all of us will get a dose of rain. A weather front sweeps through. Behind it we have much milder conditions, so all the cold that we've had in the last few days will be pushed back into central parts of Europe. Here's the weather front crossing the country during the morning into the afternoon, but actually by the end of the day on Friday we should get some sunshine. It will be very windy too, particularly in the northwest. Look at that, double figure temperatures for the end of the working week, but still for a time at least chilly there in Norwich, 5 degrees. And the summary for the weekend, it's going to turn milder, there'll be some sunshine, but also a bit of rain from time to time, so a mixed bag on the way.
OK, Thomas, many thanks for that. That's it. Now on BBC One, let's join the BBC's news teams where you are. Bye for now.
It's almost 6:30. You're watching East Midlands Today with Quentin Rayner and me, Anne Davis.
Our top story tonight, the total and complete failure of a hospital to carry out a scan on a patient who later died. MarkBurgin was admitted to the Leicester Royal Infirmary with a suspected DVT. A coroner rules his care fell below accepted standards.
I think if they'd have took me seriously regarding the DVT and checked him more for that, I think Mark would definitely still be with us today.
Well, we'll be hearing more reaction to the findings shortly.
In other news, murder in a city centre.
3 teenagers are among 4 who've been arrested after a 22-year-old man is stabbed to death in Derby.
Also tonight, is this the youngest teacher ever? The 4-month-old baby teaching kids to care.
I was a bit weary at the start.
Yeah.
At the end of the session, they're
really loving, aren't they? They are anyway.
And the lady with the lamp was also a lady of letters. They reveal that a local pub got on her wick. Hello, good evening, welcome to the programme. Well, we begin tonight with 3 teenagers and a man who have been arrested in connection with a fatal stabbing in Derby city centre last night.
Police were called to the scene after a report that a man had been attacked. The 22-year-old later died and police have now begun a murder inquiry.
An area of the city centre was cordoned off this morning as part of the investigation. Navtej Johal reports.
Rush hour in Derby city centre this morning, but those at work weren't wearing ties with their suits. A police cordon remained in place in all of St Peter Street after officers responded to an ambulance call last night following reports that a man had been attacked in Derby city centre. The victim was a 22-year-old man from Derby who's believed to have been stabbed. He was taken to the Royal Derby Hospital where he died.
It's a fairly busy area even at 8:30 in the evening, so there'll be witnesses, there'll be people around. There'll also be CCTV evidence from business premises and the council CCTV. Clearly we'll work through that to try to picture what has happened to hopefully find out why this man died.
Dozens of businesses remained closed as police examined the area and gathered evidence. The news shocked many people used to seeing a busy city centre in the morning.
I'm heartbroken, to be honest. I'm going to have to go. I'm so upset by that. Sorry.
You think twice about going out, yeah. Certainly you're frightened to come out your doors, aren't you, nowadays?
Oh my God, it's so shocking. You know, I didn't think anything like this could happen in Derby.
3 teenagers aged 15, 16 and 17 and a 22-year-old man are currently under arrest in connection with the incident. Now, despite those arrests, police are still asking any witnesses to come forward if they have any more information about what happened here last night. Navtej Johal, BBC East Midlands Today, Derby.
The Leicester Royal Infirmary has been told by a coroner there was a total and complete failure by medical staff for not scanning a patient with suspected deep vein thrombosis.
MarkBurgin, who was 48, died of a blood clot in the lung caused by the thrombosis less than 2 weeks later in January last year. A narrative conclusion has been recorded today at the inquest into his death.
Tonight, his family said they feel Mark didn't get the treatment he deserved. Emily Anderson reports.
A clever and well thought of man who was looking forward to a new lease of life. MarkBurgin had a successful hip operation in December 2014. A month later, he died of a pulmonary embolism caused by deep vein thrombosis. A year on from his death, the family say they're still struggling to come to terms with what's happened.
It's been 12 months that we'll never forget. It's been very hard. You still live it all the time.
The Assistant Coroner, Dr. Christina Swan, says there was a missed opportunity to detect deep vein thrombosis in MarkBurgin. There was a complete and total failing, she says, by the Leicester Royal Infirmary not to scan him on the 3rd of January last year. In doing so, that fell below the reasonable accepted standards of care. In a statement, a spokesperson for the University Hospitals of Leicester has said, Mr. Burgin's death was absolutely tragic and our deepest sympathies are with his family. The coroner found there was no deep vein thrombosis present on admission and that Mr. Burgin was appropriately discharged. Regardless of these findings, we continue to assess the policies and procedures. Outside the court today, his widow says the Leicester Royal Infirmary should have done more.
I think if Mark had had the scan that he should have had in the first place, and I think if they'd have took me seriously regarding the DVT and checked him more for that, I think Mark would definitely still be with us today. I hope nobody has to go through what we've gone through.
I think we wouldn't be doing Mark justice if we didn't investigate this further. On behalf of the Burgin family, I will be doing that.
Can you go into any more detail at this stage as to what you'll be doing?
All we can say is that a civil claim will be investigated, and having identified gross failures, it's for us now to prove the impact that those gross failures would have had.
The Burgin family say they hope they'll soon be able to move on from the pain of the last 12 months. Emily Anderson, BBC East Midlands Today, Leicester.
All sorts of things are still on their way in the rest of the programme.
Yes, including a rather unusual FA Cup warm-up for some Leicester City players. Ball into boot is the aim. Find out if that car survives later on. Before that, though, children in the poorest part of the East Midlands are involved in a new type of teaching which has proved to increase social skills and reduce the chances of aggressive behaviour.
16 schools in Nottingham have been chosen for the project. It ties in with Nottingham MP's push for what's called early intervention to support families. Here's our political editor, Tony Rowe.
Hello, baby Layla, and how are you?
Layla is 4 months old and this is her 4th day at school as a teacher. This is Robin Hood Primary School in North Nottingham on the Bestwood estate, and Layla is part of a programme which changes children's behaviour. This class of 7 and 8-year-olds are learning to care and wonder by following the progress of Layla throughout a year.
It shows that it reduces aggression and bullying, and whilst that's not a major issue here, I think learning about temperaments and how we're all different, that can only be a good thing for our children in this community.
It just gives them a bit of time within the curriculum to focus on their emotions and how they feel and talk to each other about that.
When the Prime Minister announced his Life Chances strategy, he said he wanted to help the most disadvantaged children in society. Well, if he came to this part of the Nottingham North constituency, he would find families with the second lowest income in the country.
David Cameron says welfare is more than just money. Social connections and experiences, he says, are vital, and if families fail, it's important schools do not. The MP for Nottingham North, Graham Allen, has long championed early intervention in schools, and this fits the bill.
They're always a bit weary at the start, but
yeah,
at the end of the session, they're
really loving, aren't they? They are anyway.
She's standing better. Her neck's got stronger. And she was standing up more better. Her head is not wobbly.
They hope to double the number of schools in Nottingham taking part in the Roots of Empathy project to 30. Oh, and the babies, including Layla, are learning too.
Did you enjoy it today? Yeah? Yeah.
Tony Rowe, BBC East Midlands Today, Nottingham.
Oh, in other news tonight, unemployment has dropped once again in the East Midlands. That's according to figures out today. The number of people out of work between September and November last year was 10,000. Figures from the Office for National Statistics showed that's down 8,000 on the previous quarter. The unemployment rate is now 4.3%. It means the jobless total in our region has reduced by 28,000 in a year.
Next tonight, Derbyshire's Chief Constable says Greville Janner should have been arrested for historical child sex offences 25 years ago.
Mick Creedon carried out the first investigation into the former Leicester MP. Today, he's rejected the findings of a new judge-led inquiry. That said, Greville Janner escaped prosecution because of mistakes by the police. But Mr Creedon says the CPS had been handed the evidence but chose not to charge him.
Well, our social affairs correspondent Jeremy Ball can tell us more. Jeremy, this is another significant development, isn't it?
It is, because Mick Creedon's one of the country's most experienced police chiefs, and he's essentially saying that yesterday's Henriques inquiry blamed the police unfairly. And this all goes back to 1991, when Mick Creedon was a detective in Leicestershire, where he actually interviewed Greville Janner and concluded that the then MP was guilty of sexually abusing a 14-year-old boy.
So why did it all go wrong then?
Well, I spoke to Mick Creedon about this some time ago, and he said that he wanted to arrest Greville Janner, but that bosses ordered him to organise an interview by appointment instead. That meant that the MP's home wasn't searched. Now, the Henriques inquiry said that police investigation was inadequate, and that's why Greville Janner wasn't prosecuted. Today, though, in a statement, Mick Creedon has said that the CPS should carry the can instead.
Why does he say that?
Well, he says his investigation still produced enough evidence to charge Greville Janner with child sex offences. He says the CPS knew that, but they still decided not to prosecute. Why does this matter after all these years? Well, it's because of that big Justice Goddard inquiry into child sexual abuse. That's going to be looking for institutional failings, so there's a lot riding on this. And Mick Creedon says he's already been starting to give evidence to the Goddard inquiry.
OK, Jeremy, thank you very much indeed. Other stories making the news tonight. He was one of the greatest footballers of his era and a Notts County legend. But a begging letter from Tommy Lawton will soon be put up for auction. When Lawton signed for Notts, Gates went up to 40,000, but after his career ended, well, he hit hard times. In this letter to the film star Richard Attenborough, who he knew from his time at Chelsea, he asked for a loan of £250. Attenborough sent a cheque for 100. The auction will be held next month.
And one of the oldest survivors of the Japanese prisoner of war camps has died aged 101. Harold Smalley from Whitwick in Leicestershire was a Lance Corporal in the 1st Leicestershire Regiment. He was captured by the Japanese in 1942 and put to work building the Burma-Thailand Railway. He shared his story with East Midlands Today last summer to mark the 70th anniversary of VJ Day. Harold's funeral is on Monday.
You're watching East Midlands Today on the BBC, and, well, I guess we all know that keeping fit is pretty good for us. But now researchers in Leicestershire have found that actually short bursts of intensive exercise can help to prevent type 2 diabetes.
Yes, apparently the study claims that high-intensity interval training is more effective than many other forms of exercise. Helen Astle reports.
Gym members were working up a sweat this lunchtime at the University of Leicester gym. Researchers have shown that people who do high-intensity interval training, which is short bursts of intense exercise like these cyclists, are not only keeping fit, but they're also helping to reduce their risk of type 2 diabetes.
It massively increases your fitness, which is really good for cardiovascular health. But what we found, which is quite novel, is that the impact on the control of blood sugar is also improved, and that has really good implications for type 2 diabetes.
The study was carried out by the University of Leicester and the Leicester Loughborough Biomedical Research Unit. Cyclists here are hoping that their hard work will pay off in the long run.
My mum had diabetes later on in life, so obviously I'm quite conscious of the fact I need to look after my health.
It helps to regulate my blood sugar. I've had diabetes testing and everything seems to be okay.
You feel as if you are, hopefully, going forward, that we won't end up with diabetes and things like that.
Academics are now calling for more research to be undertaken to work out the long-term benefits. Helen Astle, BBC's Midlands Today, Leicester.
Well, obviously a big factor in staying fit is also about eating the right foods. Now takeaway businesses in Nottinghamshire are being encouraged to offer healthier choices to their customers.
Yep, comes as statistics show 2/3 of people in the county are overweight or obese. Gita Pense has more.
There you go. No worries, thank you.
A busy lunchtime at the food bar in Beeston, and eating healthily is at the core of the menu. Joe opened up shop after struggling to find healthy options on the high street.
I've always been someone who likes to eat really healthily, but I was really frustrated by what's on the market. I was sick of eating sandwiches and crisps and Diet Coke basically all the time, so I wanted to eat proper food, healthy food and natural food.
The food bar is among 60 takeaway shops around Nottinghamshire that have joined a council scheme to promote healthier eating.
So what are businesses being encouraged to do? Well, it includes things like having smaller adult portions, promoting water and low sugar drinks, or instead of fried food, perhaps giving food that's been steamed or baked.
In Nottinghamshire, 2 in 3 adults are either overweight or obese, and that has an impact on their health. So, you know, potentially they may develop heart disease, type 2 diabetes, or other conditions related to their weight. So we're really keen that people do try and think about their weight and look at ways in which maybe they can manage their weight.
There's a full list of all the businesses taking part on the council website. It's hoped customers will opt for tasty and healthy options. Gita Pense, BBC East Midlands Today.
Is that your tummy gurgling
Well,
again?
it did look really nice, actually. I want to know what all those things were. I tell you what, it wasn't nice early, but by about 10:30, 11, it was certainly lovely and sunny today. Question though is, will it last?
Well, our own little ray of sunshine will be along later.
Oh, bless you. It's been a lovely day today. Plenty of blue skies like this afternoon, but things are changing. It is getting milder, but there's always a price to pay. Find out how much later in the programme.
Always a price to pay.
That was philosophical, wasn't it? They say things come in threes, don't they?
Yes, they do indeed. Do they not?
Do they ever play any other side apart from Spurs, Leicester?
It doesn't feel that way, does it, just
No.
at the moment? It's FA Cup time, and that is where we are going to start this evening with Leicester. It's a season described by defender Christian Fuchs as insane, and it could take another leap forward tonight if the Foxes can beat Spurs in their FA Cup third-round replay. From the manager down, this has been a season built on having fun. So when I went to see Fuchs and new boy Damari Gray, it was appropriate that fun was had. As PR stunts go, this one looked simple for a pair of professional footballers. From a distance, put a ball into the boot of a Mini. So easy, in fact, that this happened before the games had even begun. Done. But then, under pressure...
It was harder than it looked. I was quite confident until after about 10 shots.
It's much more pressure than in the game, you know, that's the problem. It's much more pressure, you know, in front of camera, you know, you have to do that, and it's hard to do.
Really, so when you're out there in front of 30,000 people and everything, it's almost easier, is it?
It's more relaxing now.
Yeah, definitely. No one's on your back, you know. But yeah, it was good fun.
None of this really matters, of course, because Leicester have been doing it where it counts.
It's insane. I mean, everybody's proud of what's happening right now. We are doing a lot of work, also, you know, to keep the run up, to simply push ourselves to the limit. It works so far.
Damari Gray's arrival helps bolster an already high-performing squad, young with his bags of potential properly on display in the first of the games against Spurs.
Have an impact on my debut against Tottenham, you know. It's a completely different step up from Championship football.
And the one that shaved the post. I mean,
yeah. Yeah. That, you know, if that went in, that would have been... Can't even explain. It would have been great.
He's under no illusions, which helps.
I'm willing to be patient, and all I can do is work hard, and that's just what I had to do when I come through at Birmingham, just wait and get my spot.
And patience was certainly required with this game. Fuchs even trying the spectacular before, at last, Gray nailed it. And all very much good fun.
It's important to keep it a fun and happy place, as long as we do everything properly.
Well, I think that's kind of a key to our success, that everybody is really having fun, you know. You work, you have fun with your work, and it just reflects on the field again.
In case you were wondering, 57 attempts they took to get that ball in between them. 57, and they succeeded twice, including that first one you saw there from Christian Fuchs when he wasn't even really trying. We do have one other bit of news coming out of Leicester City. Out of favour striker Andre Kramaric has joined German side Hoffenheim on loan till the end of the season. Interesting to see him departing. And another match, more action this evening, this time in ice hockey. Nottingham Panthers, they're in their Challenge Cup quarter-final action tonight. This is, of course, the competition Panthers dominated until last year. They won it 5 times on the trot, which is an astonishing record. It is the first leg quarter-final. They are at home to Bray Head, and it starts off at 7:30. Now then, I think we can head over to the King Power Stadium now and talk to a very special guest about this evening's programme. Kevin Kilban, former player, of course, and star and part of our team there, 'cause it's live on BBC One, is with us. Kevin, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let's start with Leicester City and what you've made of their season. What have you thought of it?
Hi, good evening. I think it's been an outstanding season, truly outstanding season. A continuation, of course, from last season when they had such a great finish. But I think they've surprised so many sides this season. The way that they've come out, how well they've been playing, the tempo they've been playing at. And it just goes to show, doesn't it, that you don't necessarily need to spend millions and millions of pounds to be right up at the top of the Premier League. And now we're hoping for pretty much the same again from them this evening in the FA Cup.
Yeah, I was going to talk about the FA Cup. As a team now, when you get to this position, how do you balance the demands of the FA Cup and the Premier League?
Well, it is tiring. You can't get away from that fact. It's tiring on the legs, it's tiring on the body, and it's about preparation and recovery from the games. You're coming off the back of such a busy Christmas period. The players will be feeling it a little bit, particularly with the way that Leicester do play as well, with the tempo that they play at. But I would imagine tonight we'll see a little bit of a squad rotation. There will be changes tonight from the weekend's fixtures. And overall, it's about trying to keep your squad, or maybe up to Claudio Ranieri, to keep the squad as fresh as possible, to keep them physically right. And that's what his job is to do as a manager, to try and oversee all that.
And once you've got momentum, you want to keep it, don't you? That's the thing. You want to just keep going.
Yeah, I think that is the key. You know, you come into these FA Cup ties, and we have seen in recent seasons, and even this season as well, sides do like to change and like to maybe perhaps bring players into the side that have been getting a lot of game time. But you're spot on. It's about momentum. It's about keeping a momentum with you. Leicester have certainly got that at the moment. You know, only 2 losses this season in the Premier League. You don't want to get any more than that, particularly with the last few months of the Premier League season. But in the FA Cup, there's a real chance to really go and progress. Colchester in the next round. It's a winnable tie again. So overall, you've just got to try and keep that momentum going. As you say, it's about keeping it right. So when you do go back to the Premier League, you've got that winning feeling still.
Kevin, thank you very much indeed. Kevin
Kilban
there. Live on BBC One. Coverage starts at 7:30 and, of course, on BBC Radio Leicester as well.
Everything is crossed.
It's all about momentum.
It is all about momentum. I've always said that. Now then, it may be over 100 years since she died, but global interest in the Derbyshire nursing pioneer Florence Nightingale remains just as strong as ever.
So much so that over 80 of her letters held at the Derbyshire Record Office have just been uploaded to an international website run by Boston University in America. James Robertson has been looking at them.
At the Derbyshire Record Office, Mark Smith collects letters and other artefacts once belonging to Florence Nightingale so that he can show them to me.
So we alone have got 88 Florence Nightingale letters in our archive, and there are thousands more in other institutions around the world.
The letters were all written by Florence in the 19th century from her Derbyshire home Lea Hurst, and later from her London home in Mayfair to a local doctor, Christopher Dunn from Cryche.
You can see the individual attention she's giving to people. Look, Lizzie Holmes has been suffering severely from her cough. Could anything more be done for her?
In the Derbyshire archive are pictures of Florence too, but it's the Dunn correspondence that's now joined that international collection of Nightingale letters collated by Boston University.
What Boston University have done, they brought them all together. They've had them all digitised. I think she remains a notable figure in the history of this country, the history of the nursing profession particularly. And you can tell by looking at the Derbyshire letters just how immersed she was in the life of her local community.
The Dunn letters refer frequently to Florence's desire to get people away from the Wheatsheaf pub in Wat Stanwell and across the road to a new coffee shop and library.
And that's illustrated in one of the transcribed letters, isn't it?
That's right. She was very concerned about the effects of alcohol. She says, I beg to give you joy of the good prospect of the Wat Stanwell coffee room, and I look forward to the day that Adam Prince will be found sitting there, instead of being fished out of a crouch public house by his poor old mother after 3 days drinking as he was last winter.
The letters, which can now be seen online, show you could take Florence out of Derbyshire, but you couldn't take Derbyshire out of Florence. James Roberson, BBC East Midlands Today.
Oh, the art of letter writing.
I never knew she preferred coffee to beer.
Did you not? Were you surprised at that? It is that time where we go and we find out what we have in store on the old weather front.
Yes, well, it's been lovely today, hasn't
Yeah.
it? Beautiful, crisp blue skies today, and we've had loads of lovely pictures sent in by our weather watchers. This is more like it, isn't it? Hardly a cloud in the sky this afternoon, but things are changing. Now, we've got a battle on our hands, actually, between high pressure to the east and an area of low pressure which is trying to push in from the west. High clinging on for tonight and for most of the day tomorrow, but you can see we have got a weather front starting to swing in from the west into Friday. So we're going to see the return of the rain on Friday, turning quite wet and windy, actually, on Friday morning. But behind that, things will start to warm up a bit. So by the weekend, temperatures will be back up into double figures. Not just yet, though. We have got rather cold air with us at the moment, so another cold night's to come tonight. In fact, the coldest of the winter so far for many of us. Clear skies tonight, allowing the temperatures to fall. We'll be down to -2 in the towns, and in more sheltered spots we could be as low as -4 or -5. And you can see just in the east there, we're going to start to see that freezing fog forming once again. So a murky start in the east tomorrow morning, a cold start for all of us, that's for sure. Now the fog will clear quite quickly because the winds will start to pick up through the day, but those winds will be bringing back the clouds. So after a bright start, particularly in the east, we'll see more cloud into the afternoon. I think we'll stay dry for the daylight hours tomorrow. A little bit of rain by the evening time, but staying cold with highs of 3 or 4 Celsius. Now, tomorrow night, we will see the cloud increasing and the winds will pick up. And you can see that weather front will be on the doorstep by tomorrow morning. That sweeps its way through on Friday. Wet and windy weather then on Friday. But yeah, into the weekend, temperatures possibly up to 12 degrees.
Positively balmy. Actually, completely balmy, isn't it? It's going to be cold tonight, the old football.
Yes, it's time for the thermals. I think if you're heading to football, there will be a report, though, on the late bulletin. With you, I think.
No.
No, with
Geeta,
No, with Geeta and Kay.
Yes. And don't forget, of course, if you want any updates on our stories, take a look at our Facebook page.
Just take a look at it anyway, because it's lovely. I'll see you soon tomorrow.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Now a party political broadcast by the Labour Party.